We do know, obviously, Thursday, April 1st is the Detroit Tigers opening day, which is really like a national holiday here in the city of Detroit.
Hmm.
And 8,000 fans are going to be allowed to attend that. But as more and more people get vaccinated, you wonder how many people are going to be comfortable actually going to the games, because this is about revenue. And when you go to the games, I believe right now, you can't get concessions.
Yeah.
Ansar Khan joins us now on the MegaCast. He is the Pistons Red Wings beat writer for MLive. Thank you for being with us.
Glad to be with you.
So are you at the stadium now?
Yeah, I'm at LCA. The Wings are about to take the ice for practice.
So what's it been like for you as someone that is covering sports, getting back, going to the games, and getting into the stadiums? What's that experience like for you?
Well, it's much different than before. In addition to all the procedures that you have to go through just to get into the arena, you have to fill out a daily questionnaire about your health. Obviously, wear masks. You can only go. You go to the press box. The locker rooms of course, are not open all across every sport. Everything is done by Zoom calls. So certainly a much different landscape than pre-COVID, and I would expect that they will at least start next season in the same fashion.
Ansar Khan with us on the Oakland County MegaCast. He's the beat writer for the Detroit Pistons and Red Wings for MLive Media Group. And as we get closer, Ansar, to fans returning to the stands, well, now that they have returned to the stands at Little Caesars Arena, what are the rules that are in place in terms of how many people can come in and what the experience is like for fans at LCA, in particular for Pistons games versus Red Wings games, or a combination of the two with their similarities?
Yeah, I believe it's the same. The limit for indoor arenas is 750 right now, and they have to be spaced out, scattered throughout the lower bowl. You'll see them sitting in groups of 2 or 4, or however many they came with plenty of space in between. Masks have to be worn throughout the game, anytime they're in the building. And concession stands are actually open, so there is that.
And while we're on the topic of LCA and you're there for the Red Wings practice, as we can hear the pucks dropping in the background, let's talk about a story you released last week on MLive.com about some controversy in a matchup between the Detroit Red Wings and the Nashville Predators, where referee Tim Peel was caught on a hot mic speaking about his intentions to call a penalty against the Nashville Predators, whether it was warranted or not. Can you give us an update on that? In your article, he was fired on last week, Wednesday, less than 24 hours after that situation. What went on there, and then what was the NHL's response, obviously resulting in his termination?
Yeah, that was a really bizarre incident, a bizarre story on many levels. Tim Peel was caught on a hot mic saying that a penalty that he had called against Nashville, his quote was something to the effect that it wasn't much, but I wanted to call a penalty at Nashville, which it really made no sense. It was the reputation that the referees have of evening up calls, make up calls if they felt that an earlier penalty wasn't warranted against a particular team. It's often said that they'll try to just have a makeup call later in the game. And this was early in the second period. I'm not sure what he was trying to make a makeup call for. And the other bizarre thing about that was he apparently said that to the Nashville bench, to a player on Nashville. He told him, which I can't figure out why he would say that. And the league really, I was surprised at how swiftly they acted. I thought maybe they'd take a few days to think about it and investigate, but they put the hammer down real quick. Of course, it made it a little easier in the fact that he was going to retire anyway, in another month. So basically, they gave him early retirement, but they really had no choice after that debacle because his credibility would have been shot. I mean, any subsequent game that he would have worked, I mean, people would have said, "Wait a minute, did he make that penalty call just because he felt like it? Was it really warranted?" Or I mean, his integrity was just obliterated at that point.
And so, Ansar, did he have an explanation?
He has not talked. No, I've not. I don't believe I've not seen anything, any comments from him regarding his rationale behind that move.
Obviously, we've had referee scandals before, such as this in the NBA previously, most notably with Tim Donaghy and other referees who were betting on games or involved in betting on games. Very different situation than what happened in this matchup between the Red Wings and the Predators. But from what you may or may not be hearing within either the Red Wings organization, because obviously it didn't happen to them, but it would be of a concern to them if it were to be something that was directed at their team rather than their opponent, or from within the NHL circles about any further investigations into other referees or other teams of referees that may be enacting similar practices to try to weed this out of the league? Or does the league take this as more of an isolated incident?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Isolated incident for sure. The Red Wings, in fact, were very quick in defending the league, saying that they have no doubts about the integrity of the officiating, and even Jeff Blashill and Sam Gagner supported Tim Peel. They said they couldn't understand it. They said he's a good referee. They've always had a good relationship with him, and so they backed him up, and they were certainly surprised by the whole incident.
Yeah, definitely a surprise and something that you hope not to see any further of in any of these leagues, especially at the professional level where even the referees are the best of the best. Ansar Khan joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. He's a beat writer for the Detroit Red Wings and Detroit Pistons with MLive Media Group. You can read his articles online, MLive.com. And Ansar, while we're on the topic of the Red Wings currently 12-20 and 4. Once again, not one of the better teams in the league, at the bottom of the league right now. And as we're approaching the NHL Draft Lottery, what does it look like for the Red Wings going into this offseason with this particular draft? In the last few years, there have been some very hot prospects that if the Red Wings were able to move up in the lottery and get one of those higher picks, that they could potentially get a star-studded or potentially star-studded young player. Is that the case in this upcoming crop of players coming in?
Not really. I think most analysts kind of view this as a weaker draft class at the top relative to what it has been in the past. The big defenseman, Owen Power of Michigan, a lot of people project him to be the #1 pick. As far as the Red Wings, I believe they are third from the bottom right now. And it doesn't look like they're going to finish dead last like they did last year because of Buffalo's just a mess right now. So they won't have the best chance of winning the draft lottery. Plus, the NHL made some slight adjustments just a couple weeks ago to the draft lottery to make it a little bit more favorable for that worst team to get that first pick. So Red Wings will not have as good of odds of winning that first pick as they would have in the past, which never did them any good anyway because the last 4 lotteries they dropped anywhere from 1 to 2 spots.
And what is the thought on that within the Red Wings front office, within the highest levels of the organization, because the lottery has been so unfruitful for them despite their position and been more favorable to other teams in similar or even better situations than they are in? Are the Red Wings frustrated with the current lottery system, especially now as it's going to be even more favorable for a team, for context, the Buffalo Sabres with 6 wins in comparison to the Red Wings 12?
Yeah, no, they didn't think it was equitable before, but they are in favorable of the changes simply because it does favor, and it should favor the worst team. The worst team in the league should have greater odds at winning that top pick. Last year, in the previous system, the Red Wings that finished 23 points behind the next worst team last year, they actually had a better chance, slightly above 50%, of finishing fourth in the lottery, which they ended up doing, as opposed to only an 18% chance of winning it. And that's just not fair. And so the league has adjusted that a little bit to favor the worst team. And I think most people in hockey think that it was the right thing to do.
Ansar Khan joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. He's a beat writer for the Pistons and Red Wings with MLive Media Group. You can find his articles, MLive.com. And Ansar, let's move on to the Pistons here in the next few minutes as we get toward the end of the interview. Trade deadline had passed, very quiet for the Detroit Pistons, but they made some moves to particularly bring in some younger assets and some picks as well. Trading, of course, Svi Mikhailuk to the Oklahoma City Thunder for Hamidou Diallo, a nice young swing man that's got a lot of potential to be a solid role player potentially for the Detroit Pistons, as well as the second-round pick. And then trading backup point guard DeLon Wright to the Sacramento Kings for Corey Joseph and a pair of second-round picks. Were there any other potential trades that the Pistons were considering, or any other goals that they had that maybe they weren't able to accomplish at this trade deadline? Or is Troy Weaver and his team satisfied with what they got at this trade deadline as they move forward in this rebuild?
Yeah, they're satisfied, but there was one other move that they had hoped to make. They'd hoped to trade Wayne Ellington, veteran shooting guard, but I guess from what I understand, teams were reluctant to give up even a draft pick, a second-round pick for him, because they figured that the Pistons might waive him and they could get him without sacrificing a pick. But of course that didn't happen, and so the Pistons are, for now at least, keeping him. But yeah, that was other than that. Like you said, they got a couple of young pieces, a couple of draft picks. So other than that, they were satisfied with how things went at the trade deadline. Of course, this is a complete, as you know, just a complete overhaul. Troy Weaver's done in less than 1 year, with Sekou Doumbouya as the only holdover, and he's really having a disappointing season, not playing much.
So, Ansar, if I can ask you, I know you're a Piston and Red Wings beat writer, but just came across the wires about the Detroit Tigers' new pitching coach. He's tested positive for COVID-19 and is going to miss his very first opening day here in the city of Detroit. An overall conversation, is there one going on right now with any of these teams about allowing fans back in and the possibility of requiring vaccinations?
Not that I know of. I think really it all depends on they get their lead from the state government. There's certainly, what is it? I believe it's 20% capacity in outdoor parks is allowed now, so the Tigers are able to have about 8,000 fans at their games. Still very limited to indoor arenas. Like I said, only 750 is very little. But whenever the state gives them the green light to increase capacity, they surely will do it. But as far as requiring vaccinations or anything like that, I don't think they're ready to go there. I mean, that you open up a big can of worms there as far as legalities and all that. I would think so. It would surprise me if there was anything done along those lines as far as that requirement.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the conversation, like over the next 6 months, over the next year. What about with players and members of the staff?
Same thing, as far as I know, no requirements of getting vaccinated. I'm not sure what the age requirement. I know for my age, just opened up last week. I don't know for younger people whether or not they're eligible or not, but certainly going forward, once that age group is eligible to be vaccinated, I would think that these guys will all get their shots.
Ansar Khan with us. He's a beat writer for the Pistons and Red Wings with MLive Media Group. Just another couple minutes with you, Ansar. And obviously in the last few weeks, the Pistons reached a buyout with Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin then signed with the Brooklyn Nets. We've seen in just the last few days, LaMarcus Aldridge of the San Antonio Spurs also reached a buyout deal and signed with the Brooklyn Nets as well. They now have a handful of former All-Stars on their team in their starting lineup and on their bench. Andre Drummond, former Detroit Piston, waived in the last couple of days by the Cleveland Cavaliers and has now signed with the Los Angeles Lakers, where he'll be playing alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis. There's been a lot of complaints, particularly in the fan community of the NBA about, and debate in the community around the NBA about this kind of a situation where players can be bought out, star players that maybe are not in a great situation and want to be somewhere else, but they don't have the contract to be moved. They can be bought out and then go to these teams that go from being super teams with 2 or 3 superstars to 2 or 3 superstars, a bunch of former All-Stars that become super duper teams, for lack of better terms. I think it's fine because it's within the rules and players are going to want to play with who they want to play with. What are your thoughts on this current system in place, and does the NBA need to change some of these rules regarding buyouts to prevent teams from stacking the deck, so to speak, and messing with what might be the parity of the league?
Yeah, I tell you what, I don't like it. I didn't like, I think the formation of these super teams kind of started with back in the day Miami with LeBron and Bosh and Dwayne Wade and now we're seeing it with so many other teams like Lakers and last couple of years the Nets. It really stacks the deck against the smaller market teams, the teams that aren't the places that aren't destinations. That's what made it refreshing a couple of years ago when Toronto won the championship. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I do think something needs to change in that regard to make it more equitable for, like I said, smaller market teams and places that aren't destinations. What exactly they can do about it, I don't know, because players have so much power in the NBA. But that is something I would like to see change. I'd like to see a little bit more parity in the NBA.
Yeah, it's something that's definitely going to be a hot debate in the months to come, especially as we approach playoff time, with the Lakers stacking up a little bit more with the addition of Andre Drummond, with, of course, the Brooklyn Nets adding a couple of former All-Stars in the last couple of weeks or so. It's going to be a hot debate as we head into playoff time next offseason and going forward in the NBA. Ansar Khan joining us on the MegaCast. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Glad to be with you.